Welcome to a very special edition of the MeidasTouch podcast. Ben Meiselas here, joined by my younger brothers, Brett Meiselas and Jordy Meiselas. And we have very special guests for you today, family members of Reality Winner. Now, you may have heard the name Reality Winner. You may not have heard the name Reality Winner. You may have heard the name Reality Winner in the context of Reality Winner needs to be freed, but you asked yourselves, who is this Reality Winner? What's her story? And what took place? And so to get you that information, we have an incredible set of guests, Reality Winner's family, starting with Billie Jean Winner Davis, Brittany Winner, and Wendy Collins. If you can all introduce yourselves, your relationship to Reality Winner, that would be incredible.
Yes, hello. I'm Billie Winner Davis, and I am Reality's mom. I'm also Brittany's mom. I'm very proud of both of my daughters. I want to thank you guys for having us on. I admire your work so much, and it's really an honor to talk with you today.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm Brittany Winner. I'm Reality Winner's older sister. I'm older than her by about 15 months. And so we're very close in age, very close before her ordeal, and then even closer now that she's, in prison and she doesn't have a lot of, outside support other than her family, day to day talking to her. So I'm really thankful to be here to talk about my sister and to explain why she needs to get out.
Hi, I'm Wendy Collins. I did not know the Winner family or Reality, actually. I heard about Reality's arrest and what was being said about this young woman, this United States Air Force veteran. And I think I felt like the way you might if you happened upon someone drowning and you just knew you had to dive in and try and help them. And I got involved. I'm a mom, and there was something that just made me want to help. And I've been here since the beginning.
And so, Wendy, it's not a mistake, even though when I refer to you as family, you've become in many ways, it was accurate. You've become in many ways family to the Winner family, as you've battled with them to bring attention to what's taken place. So I want to start. I want to start from the very beginning with Reality Winner's childhood. We'll start with you, Billie Winner. Can you tell me what it was like, what Reality Winner was like growing up, and where did she grow up?
Yeah, well, so Reality was born in Alice, Texas, which is South Texas, but she spent most of her childhood in Kingsville, Texas. We live outside of Kingsville, Texas, in a small rural community called Ricardo. That's where we still live. I still live in the home where she grew up, where Brittany grew up as well. Both of the girls were lucky enough to actually attend school in a small private Episcopal school setting from the age of 3 until I think Brittany went through to 5th grade. And so it was a very small setting. They got a lot of individual attention. Both of the girls were extremely intelligent. I mean, off the charts intelligent, but both of them were very, very different. Reality was, she has a lot of a curiosity in learning. Even today, she thrives on getting as much information that she can get, and by exploring her world. And that's the way that she always was as a child, exploring her world, learning new languages, learning about new religions, just very inquisitive about everything. She was not a troublemaker at all, but she has a really fun and quirky sense of humor. She's kind of a prankster. In 8th grade, she was set to be valedictorian of her class, her graduating class for 8th grade, but she was not allowed to walk the stage for her graduation because she orchestrated the biggest and worst food fight that the school has ever experienced. And that's who Reality is. They put her in a leadership role, and she made the best of it. And so, I was sad that she didn't get to walk the stage. She promised me that she would walk the stage at high school. And she did do that, tried to get out of it a couple times, but no, I made her keep to her promise that she would walk the stage. She was, involved in tennis, soccer. She was the athlete of the family, very athletic. She loved soccer. Her stepdad actually was her soccer coach for about 3 years. And so she was the one that really went into kind of the sports angle of things. And so, but, just growing up, she was never a troublemaker. I never had to worry about either of my girls getting into any kind of trouble. They volunteered. I worked with Child Protective Services their entire life. And so anytime that there was an event, we were very involved in the community and doing things with regard to Child Protective Services and other community events. And Reality was right alongside me for all of that and volunteered for her community and was always, doing what she could. I know that when Katrina hit, our community set up a shelter. And it was a Sunday afternoon. We found out that they were setting up a shelter. And right away, Reality said, we need to go help. And so we went to go help. And that's who she was growing up. Reality started teaching herself Arabic when she was a senior in high school. And she started ordering, books and materials to teach herself Arabic and started putting, like stickers all over the house, labeling things in Arabic. I still have stickers here at the house that haven't come off yet for sentimental reasons. And, she made the decision that she wanted to look at the military because my oldest stepson, he joined the Air Force and he's a Russian linguist for the Air Force. And so she saw pretty much what he was able to do and, the way that the Air Force, had taught him the language and he had, opportunities. And so she made the decision that she wanted to also join the Air Force and wanted to be a Middle Eastern linguist. And she actually joined just prior to graduating from high school, but she was in a delayed entry program with the Air Force. And so she still had to go every weekend. She had to go for training and for classes, even though she wasn't in the actual, basic yet. But they had this delayed entry program where they actually, they start the training prior to them actually leaving. So the night that we took her over to Corpus Christi, and she was getting on the bus to go to basic training, which was at Lackland in San Antonio, right before she gets ready to leave for the bus, that's when she takes the opportunity to tell me that she had actually been offered a full scholarship at a local university, Texas A&M University, for the engineering program. And she had been holding that secret, the entire time, didn't want to tell me until she was getting ready to go on the bus for basic training. And I, at that moment, could not have been more proud and more happy because I guess as a parent, I thought that maybe she was going off to the Air Force because her sister had gone to college. And I thought that maybe she didn't want to burden us with the costs of college and the cost of supporting her through it. But her telling me that she got that full ride was, telling me that this was something that she chose to do, and for me, I was so proud of her in that moment.
That's incredible. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, though, the name Reality with the last name Winner. The background that you paint is a very, traditional American family. And the name Reality Winner is a name that is a name that I would more associate with, Kanye West's child, Northwest. How did the name Reality Winner come about? Because that intrigues me.
I always want to blame her dad. Okay, so
as mothers do.
Yes, and it was him. It was him. But my ex-husband, the girl's dad, he was older than I was, and he was pretty non-traditional. When I had Brittany, I named Brittany, and so Brittany is Brittany Michelle Winner. His last name is Winner. Our last name was Winner, which is a pretty unique name in and of itself. But Brittany, I named her Brittany Michelle Winner because she's always going to be my Beamer, my BMW. She is first class. So when I got pregnant with Reality, he said, you named the first one, I get to name the second one. And I just thought that was fair. And so I said, okay. And so as the pregnancy went on, and he decided that he said he wanted a real winner. And the reason being is, when I was pregnant with Brittany, we went through all the Lamaze classes and everything. He was my coach. He was very proud of that. He was so excited. And he actually had a t-shirt made that said that he coached a real winner. And, for Brittany. And so then that kind of gave him the idea that this time he would have a real winner. And so he said he was going to name her Reality Winner. And I said, a deal was a deal. I mean, I couldn't back out. And so, yeah, we named her Reality Lee Winner. We had, envisioned that when we brought her home, we would call her Lee, which I think is a very beautiful name. But we had, a babysitter and family came, and we just started calling her Reality, and it fit. And so it did fit.
And I think indisputably, she's lived up to the name of being a real winner. I mean, throughout her whole life, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but she was a top 10 student in her high school class. Even in the Air Force, she was awarded the Air Force Commendation Medal. Could you tell us about kind of her successes in school and in the Air Force, and kind of how she went from that to working in national security?
I want to get, if I can, I want to get Brittany's perspective on that piece.
Okay.
My perspective on Reality in her childhood. Well, she was always my annoying little sister. I mean, I loved her. But since we were so close in age, we kind of butted heads. And like Mom alluded to earlier, we're very different people. I'm more chill. I'm pretty, for the most part, pretty happy-go-lucky. Just really go with the flow. I'm a rule follower. I don't really question things very much. I tend to live in my own little bubble. And I've done pretty well for myself. I'm getting a PhD in pharmacology, and kind of went into the education route and into science. And that's kind of been my path. And Reality, I did feel like when she went into the Air Force, instead of going into college, that she was doing it, to be different. But it is true that she really loved the Air Force, and she really believed that she could make a difference. And she wanted to learn those languages. That was kind of her top priority. And one of the things that she told me that she wanted to do once she had learned all those languages is to go to Afghanistan and provide humanitarian relief for women and children. And she just envisioned herself helping at an orphanage, or just really, being over there, speaking the language, being immersed in the culture. That's the kind of thing that Reality really wanted to do. And so while, I'm pretty happy to stay stateside, raise my family, kind of live a quiet little life, Reality from the get-go had plans to do something that was going to, impact a lot of people and, help people. And definitely over the past few years, as people have learned about her and learned about what kind of person she is, she's touched the lives of so many more people, I think, than she would have imagined, and more than I would have imagined. Her just being my annoying little sister, running around and basically ruining my life when I was a kid.
Well, as three brothers, we know how that goes. First of all, and Billy, I mean, you have two extremely accomplished daughters here who have gone on to do incredible things. And I know I came across Reality's story, and I was inspired by it by seeing the online community that has embraced her in such a big way. I mean, the free reality movement online has really blown up, and it's really taking over, and it's putting a lot of pressure on public officials to do the right thing and to try to help out Reality and commute her sentence or pardon her. I mean, what do you make of the support that you guys have received from the online community?
So, when this first happened, when Reality was arrested, June 3rd, 2017, my husband and I traveled to Georgia to be there at the first court hearing and to do whatever we could to help her through this. And really, I honestly thought, when we heard that she was being charged under the Espionage Act and hearing what the prosecution was putting out about her, about how she was, wanting to, ruin America, how she hated America, how she was wanting to join the Taliban, how she was, a spy and a traitor. I honestly felt like we were going to be alone in this and that it was just going to be us against the world. And all of a sudden, people started reaching out from different areas, people we had never met. Immediately somebody started a Facebook group, and then people started reaching out. How can we help? What can we do? Wendy came into our lives because she saw Reality's story. She actually reached out to Reality, started writing and communicating with Reality from jail. And she asked Reality, what can I do to help? Reality said, please, help my family, help my mom through this. And so we've all become a family through this. I owe a lot of the online social media growth to Wendy. Wendy is our social media champion. And it's amazing to hear her story, which, we can bring her on because Wendy never even had a Twitter account before this. And she has built this, into a truly huge support system for Reality, and has brought, Reality's name into the public because as she said, nobody was talking about Reality Winner. Reality hasn't gotten a lot of mainstream media attention. And I know that the 4 years of the Trump administration, there was so much chaos going on. There was so much, where stories got buried, and Reality did get buried. But Wendy has managed to actually bring Reality back.
I think in some ways, I think we need to rewind for people and just set up for people how we actually got to this place, in the first place. And so how do we go from, top 10 student in her high school class to Air Force? What's the path then that gets her into intelligence and then ultimately gets her arrested? Could you kind of take us through that story?
Yes, sure. So Reality went into the Air Force. She served 6 years. She was a Middle Eastern linguist, and she worked with the drone program. She was also selected for other special operations and a deployment to Georgia, USA. Reality did receive the Commendation Medal for her work in identifying and locating and eliminating enemy targets and terrorists. And so I'm very proud of that. After she was discharged from the Air Force, she was looking for a job. As Brittany said, she was looking for an opportunity to actually travel abroad and to use her compassion and her skills to go and help. Well, she took a job with a contract agency there in Georgia, in Augusta, Georgia, and she was working at the NSA at Fort Gordon. And this was, around the time when, Trump had been elected. We had a situation where, we had people saying that the Russians had intervened and attacked our election. We had an administration that was lying to the American people and trying to get rid of the whole Russia investigation. You have the time frame of May 2017. May 9th is when, Trump fired Comey, and then he met with the Russians in the White House, and he actually, said that he fired the nut job. He got rid of the whole Russia investigation. They wouldn't have a problem with that anymore. And May 11th, it was when Reality actually took the document that she found at the NSA that proved that the Russians had attacked our voting systems, information that wasn't even out there yet. And Reality took it, she put it in an envelope, and she mailed it to a media outlet. So the document that Reality found in her work with the NSA and took out and mailed, it was an intelligence summary that our intelligence agencies had put together that showed how the Russians had sent these spear phishing emails to the software, to the voting systems. And what they were trying to do was get into our voting systems and to alter information with regard to registrations and also votes.
Do you know how she chose the particular media source to send to? We know from the reporting that it was The Intercept, and we know, and I want to hear your views eventually, that it's been publicly reported, in my own view, is that it was kind of horribly mishandled in terms of how you handle and protect a source. But how'd she pick The Intercept versus New York Times or Washington Post? Do you have any idea?
The only information that I have is that she had used some of The Intercept's content and media when she was doing some climate change work. Reality also is very, very passionate about climate change issues and about doing things to save her planet. And so what she had done was she took some information from The Intercept's writing and their podcasts, and she used that because she actually went up and had a meeting with Senator Perdue's staff and was educating them on why it was so important for him to vote a certain way on the Dakota Access Pipeline. And so what I just assume in that is that because she was interested in their reporting and knew that they were, a source that basically, I know that they were involved also in the Snowden, information that, and worked with him. I think that she saw them as a source that she could go to and that she could be protected and that they would get this information out to the public.
Now, did she just send them the letter? Was there any kind of follow-up communications that they confirmed her as the source? Do you know if in that letter she said, I'm Reality Winner, I served, X, Y, and Z? Do you know that relationship that she had with The Intercept?
No, absolutely not. None of that happened. All that she did was fold up this document, put it in an envelope with no return address or name, and she mailed it anonymously.
Got it. And then what happens next with what The Intercept does?
What my understanding is that The Intercept received this document, saw what it was, needed to verify it, and they made, some mistakes in actually turning over either a copy of it, or I don't know if they gave the original to the FBI or showed them what they had to verify the actual document, that this is what they were looking at, because
so they were trying to confirm the authenticity of what they had received.
Exactly right.
Except when normally a media confirms the authenticity, what you would do is you'd put in an email and you would say, I have a document that says X, Y, and Z. Will you confirm or deny it? You don't show the intelligence agency the actual document because they're able to look at the document. They can extract either the metadata, the creases, the folds, the markers on it, and basically determine where it was printed, when it was printed, and that's in fact what happened here. Based on what The Intercept showed the NSA, they were able to track down the source of it, which eventually led to them tracking down Reality Winner as the source, which led to a warrant being issued. And on June 3rd of 2017, there was there a raid of her home, and then what happened next?
Yeah, so June 3rd, 2017, she's going about her day as usual. She goes to the grocery store to stock up on all of her food. She pulls into her driveway. She's immediately surrounded, and they approach her, and it basically was an entire raid. They tell her that they have a warrant on her house, her vehicle, and her person. They ask for her cell phone. They take her keys. There's 11 FBI agents, all male. 9 of them are armed. And basically 2 of them take her to the back room of her house, which she has already told them that she doesn't use the back room of her house because she finds it very creepy and she's uncomfortable in there. But they talk her into going into this back room of her house, which basically, when you see this room, she had nothing in it. It's cinder block. It's very small. They had her boxed in, and it looks very much like a jail cell to me. So they take her back there while the other ones are, going through her house and going through all of her possessions. And they basically interrogate her in this back room. They never Mirandized her. They never read her rights, never told her that she was free to call an attorney, never told her that she was free to, not talk to them. And so basically she confesses. She tells them, yes, I'm the one who did this. And she tells them, that she just felt like this information had to be out there. And so from there, she's arrested. She's taken into jail. She was taken to a small rural county jail in Georgia, which you can only imagine what that's like. And, then she was denied bail. They said that she was a flight risk. They said that she was a risk to the country. My daughter had $30,000 in her bank account. They took her passport. My daughter had only taken one trip out of the United States, like a week and a half before this, and she returned. But yet they said all these things about her so that she was denied bail. So she had no chance of defending herself, and, was held in horrendous conditions this entire time, and was basically forced to accept the plea deal that they, offered her.
Before going there, Brittany, what do you remember about that day, June 3rd, 2017, and thereafter? Did this shock you? What went through your mind?
So I was actually at a movie that evening of June 3rd, and I kept getting these phone calls on my cell phone, and I got 15 phone calls from a number. And of course, at the time, everything's innocent. I'm like, oh man, this spam caller is just really calling me so many times, leave me alone. I'm at the movies. And then it's later that night that I think I got a text from mom saying, we're on our way to Georgia, reality's in trouble. And I'm just like, oh no. So my heart just sank, when I realized that she was in jail and she was trying to call me, trying to get, her big sister to help her out. And here I was just ignoring these calls, because I'm like, this stupid spam, caller. So now if anybody calls me more than 2 or 3 times, I'm going to pick up the phone because I've learned my lesson. But it was shock. And I had no idea what she could possibly, what kind of trouble she could possibly be in, where she would, be in jail. At first I thought maybe there was some sort of misunderstanding, maybe, I don't know, that she, had gotten into something with someone. I mean, who knows? I was just completely confused. And we, for a while, didn't know why she was in there until she called me at some point. I think it was pretty soon after she was arrested. She called me from jail, and that was the phone call where I tried to make her feel a little bit better. We joked back and forth like we do. We have really strange sense of humor, and not everybody will kind of understand it. And the transcript of that phone call was actually used against Reality in court to show that she was, not taking things seriously, and that, she deserved to be in there, or XYZ, or things that she, might have said on the phone call where everything was recorded. And that was, I think, probably one of the most traumatizing things about the experience was being up on the stand as a witness for my sister, why she should, get out on bail. And then the phone records that the FBI had gotten from my sister, they went through our Facebook messenger chats, and they pulled out very specific instances where we were talking back and forth about her having to take a lie detector test, and she was joking that she was going to fail, and I was joking back with her. And it's like they're taking the most literal approach to every message. And I say this to a lot of people. I'm like, what would happen if the FBI went through your phone? What kind of person would they paint of you? What kind of monster would they make you out to be? Your private messages with your closest family member. And we're weird. I mean, we are so weird. We joke about the weirdest things. And to hear that being brought up, in a court of law, this very aggressive prosecutor asking me these questions, and here I am trying to, defend my relationship with my sister. It was completely inappropriate, completely irrelevant. And I'm still really angry to this day that they were able to paint her as some sort of terrorist, and by that, not allow her out of jail because she was dangerous. And she's not dangerous. She's my little sister. So that was awful, that whole part of it. And then of course, after her final bail hearing, and she was denied, it just felt like the world had ended. Like, when was she ever going to get out of there? What were we going to have to do to prepare for trial? It was basically, the nightmare started on June 3rd, 2017, and it still hasn't ended.
And Brittany, the prosecutors did in fact try, as you mentioned, tried to paint reality as like a terrorist, as a terrorist sympathizer. Here you have someone who dutifully served this country in the Air Force, who received commendations for her incredible work in defeating enemy combatants overseas. But what the prosecutors were leaking publicly was information that they claimed said that she had, I forget what the language was, but like bizarre affinities for Osama bin Laden and things like that they would say publicly. Where did they get that from? And what did you think as you were going through the process and they were making those types of statements, the prosecutors?
So I know that they had gone through her personal journal, which, who hasn't written something completely strange in her personal journal? I can guarantee you that she does not support Osama bin Laden. She does not support any terroristic violence against the United States or against anyone. That's completely antithetical to who Reality is and what she believes in. Reality, in being interested in Middle Eastern languages, was also interested in the culture, so that if she got the opportunity to go volunteer and do humanitarian work over there, she could understand the people, where they're coming from and who they are. She was interested in studying world religions, so she had books on, Islam. She had, a couple of copies of the Quran. She gave one of them to me. She loved the poetry in it, and she thought it was beautiful. And the way that the prosecution, the way that the government was able to cherry pick all of these things and put them into some sort of narrative. I mean, it's quite creative, and it's quite, amazing in a terrible way that they were able to do that from this, this little girl from Texas, rural Texas. I mean, we grew up in the middle of nowhere, and she served her country, and she, was a model citizen, and she really only cared about protecting her country and doing what she thought was right. And for them to come back and do basically any means necessary, say anything about her to keep her in jail so that they could break her spirit so she would accept a plea deal, get the highest, the most, months in prison ever for a whistleblower, and then the prosecution could, clap each other on the back and, go home at the end of the day, job well done. That was it's horrifying. And it's something that I think people need to know more about, that the government, if they want to, punish you like this, they'll do anything. They'll say anything about you. And you really don't think that about your own government, or that about these people that you've never met. Like, why do you have such a vendetta against my sister? Why do you want to see her in prison, in jail? Why are you doing this to us? Kind of, those were the questions. And now I think we have a little bit more clarity about, it's been 3.5 years. We know the situation. We know, at least we think we know, how bad things were in terms of Russian interference in elections and the kind of grand scheme of everything. The gestalt of things just really puts it in perspective, like why they went after her so hard and why they had to silence my sister.
Billy, how much time was your daughter facing, and why ultimately did she take the plea deal that she took?
They were threatening her with 10 years. They were actually threatening Reality with 10 years in prison for releasing a single document. And if you look at any other cases, any other person in the United States who's been charged under this law, they released volumes, and no one has ever been, treated the way that she was. She is the only person who was denied bail. And they did that for a reason. They did that so that she could be gagged. Reality is still under a gag order. The judge ordered a gag order so nobody could speak out about this case. So the only narrative that you really heard was the prosecution's. And that's part of why I've been so vocal these last, almost 4 years now, because I'm the only person who can really come out there now with my support system and Brittany to tell people the other side of it, because they locked her up, they silenced her defense team. And, they continue to do that.
When is she set to be released?
Her release date on the BOP website right now is November 23rd of 2021, and that's with the good time. She has been given good time for, they give them good time in prison. So right now her release date is November 23rd.
And which prison facility is she in right now?
Right now she's at what it's called FMC Carswell. It's a federal medical center, but that's really confusing to people because the only reason they call it a medical center is because the prison has a hospital on its campus. And so she's not in the hospital, she's in the prison.
Wendy, when did you first hear Reality Winner's name, and what made you go from not having a Twitter account to leading this free reality movement?
I think we were all on high alert with what was going on with the 2016 election. And I heard her name and I heard a bit about her story. And it felt very much, this was at a point in time, I think, when the media was still just reciting narratives rather than looking into things and investigating, and fact checking. None of that had started yet. And all my alarm bells went off. This young woman reminds me of, again, like my kids, I'm thinking this, just nothing feels right about this. And the charge and the way she was being treated. And as I learned more, because I did start communicating with her again, which was like so out of the box for me. It just, it was a soulful connection somehow to reach out to reality. And I just felt she was being railroaded completely. And I mean, to be denied a bail, if you compare the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol and what they have done, and some of them have been allowed to go on vacation, not only have a bail, but go on vacation, get special permission from the judge. There was nothing about due process in Reality's case. She wasn't well connected. She wasn't rich. Billy and Brittany described how she was being treated and charged because they could get away with it. They wanted her silenced. They wanted her gagged because they had to keep the narrative going that this was all fake news. And if Reality Winner got to speak and the American people got to meet her, number one, they'd fall in love with her right away. And, the news would be out. I mean, it's what they did to Reality from the moment they interrogated her and arrested her. I mean, imagine, she never saw the light of day again. She got thrown in this rural county jail in Lincolnton, Georgia. I mean, this place, I'm telling you, if this was a kennel and you wouldn't leave your animal there, you'd be like, hell no. I mean, it was horrible. Reality's a vegan. She literally had to try to exist on stale peanut butter and oatmeal. I mean, if she got that, it just, everything about this case. I mean, she was beaten in that jail because people, these, women coming in and out that were coming down off drugs. I mean, it was a county jail. It wasn't a place you're supposed to be long term. And Reality was there for 1 year and 83 days. And guards watched this type of treatment happen to Reality. She was still trying to help all the people that came in the jail. I mean, she'd reach out to us, this person needs to go to the hospital. This person, needs help. And here's Reality just, literally in this room 23 and a half hours a day. If she did get out for a half an hour to get outside and get potentially to exercise, it was literally a cage. I mean, that's what their exercise area was a cage. And then they would mock her because she was trying to run. I remember I guess you would refer to him as the the sheriff or the warden there, he would stand in front of her and not let her pass. I mean, these are the ways reality was attacked from within that jail. She wasn't allowed to have the type of private meetings with her attorneys that she needed to have to try and develop a case for herself. They weren't allowed able to mount a defense. Being charged under the Espionage Act, basically the courts just, ran roughshod right over her.
Wendy, how did you reach out to her? I mean, had you ever, you just called her in prison, or you showed up one day? I mean, how does that even happen?
It's so funny because her joke is, if you need to reach me, call 911. But no, so I was a little nervous about reaching out to someone in this way. So I did a little research. I mean, there was nothing about her really anywhere, so it was kind of hard to figure out what to do. But I found a way that you could email inmates. So I thought, well, I can email her, but she can't email me back, and that was my initial contact. I emailed her having no idea whether she'd ever seen, my emails, because she had no way to get back to me. And then I wrote to her. And I told her how sorry I was for what she was going through and what I had been able to find out. And I also just tried to communicate with her, like I would, a young woman in their 20s, and just talk to her about things that were going on in the world, and, just a letter basically. And she wrote me back, and that's how it all started. And then when she wrote me back and we got to know each other a little bit, and, she said, call me Ree. I mean, she doesn't go by Reality. She goes by Ree, R-E. And we got to know each other, and she just could not believe that anyone cared, because the court, the way that they spoke about her, as Brittany alluded to, the way that they painted her, and what the media, the little bit of coverage she had repeated, Reality thought that every American in this country hated her. She was so beaten down and terrified that she was hated, that everyone thought that she was a traitor. And that was my biggest, the hardest thing for me was to tell her, no, that's not what we think. Because, she doesn't know what's going on the outside, She doesn't know that people are understanding and fighting. And there's a giant women's march, and, all types of things like that, all types of activism. She just knows what they said about her. So that was it. Well, that's how we started. And then, as Billy said, she's like, please, the only thing I ask of you is make sure my mom's okay, knowing we were, around the same age, and, talk to her, call her, try and help her.
Wendy, Billy, Brittany, how often do you talk to Reality at this point? How long do you get to kind of give her updates and hear from her and make sure that she's doing okay?
We talk and email regularly. When she's been on these lockdowns, it's very difficult for her to, they have shortened phone calls. With COVID, Reality did contract COVID in prison. By the way, she was congratulated for her positive results from the guard when she was handed her paperwork. That's how much they care about Reality, and that's lets you know how much they would try and help her if she were ill. But it depends on the lockdowns. But normally, we try and email every day, every other day at the most, and she calls when she can for our communication. We used to video chat quite a bit, but now, with Brittany's new 3-month-old baby, I unfortunately, for me, I have to, but I completely understand. All my video time goes to seeing Reality's new niece that she hasn't been able to meet.
Yeah. And I usually talk to her maybe twice a week, and she'll set us up a weekly weekend video visit between my husband and I. So we had our visit this morning at 8:30. My husband and I, we get about 20 minutes with her, and it's through video. And that's something that I really want the world to know also, that, Reality, she was doing okay in prison. She was doing her programs. She had a really good job at the recreation center. She was teaching fitness and nutrition. She was doing artwork. She was taking college classes. She was doing okay. She was surviving in there. And then when COVID happened, the prisons all went on a modified operations. And what happened is they shut them down. They are locked in. There are no programs. There's nothing for them. They are locked in their units. And I want people also to know that, how hard this is. This is not just doing prison time. This is doing lockdown time. And there's no end to it. There's been no face-to-face visits since March 13th of 2020. And we don't know when there's ever going to be face-to-face visits again because of COVID. Everything has changed for her drastically. And, she did apply for compassionate release. The BOP basically lied and said that she didn't. They lied, and then they found her request. Then they denied her request. Her attorneys then filed with the district court for compassionate release. That judge basically said he didn't have the authority, and he said if he did have the authority, he wouldn't let her out. And then it went to the appellate court. The appeals court said they probably would have ruled a different way, but they still stuck with what the judge said. And so she's been denied compassionate release. She's no threat to society. She has no criminal history. She's only ever served her country and every community that she's ever lived in through volunteer work and other work that she's done. Why can't Reality Winner come home on home confinement like some of these other people have been allowed to do? She's a nonviolent offender. I don't understand why her treatment throughout this entire process has had to be so cruel, to the point where, they treat her so much worse than anyone else.
They do. And may I add that, remember, these same courts are the courts that denied Reality bail. Reality has to go back to the same courts in Georgia to ask for compassionate release. So the same district judge, Randall Hall, that denied her bail, denied her compassionate release without even holding a hearing. And then she has to go to the same circuit court, the appeals court in the 11th district, which Judge Sotomayor has already called out as being out of step and out of touch. That same court that denied her bail on appeal denied her compassionate release and actually held a hearing and then said, well, if it was up to them, they would have given it because she met all the criteria, but wasn't going to go over the head of the district judge who didn't even hold a hearing because he didn't care. Because Reality Winner isn't well connected, and Reality Winner is not rich, and there's nobody powerful that's pushing this. It's just us. And they don't care. It's disgusting. It really is.
It troubles me because I feel like they saw somebody who wasn't in a position of power like that. And it seems like every single step of the way on Reality's journey, she's been failed by the system. Whether it was the media when she leaked the document thinking that she would be a confidential source, to the government, the judges, the Department of Justice, and who was was it Jeff Sessions was AG in 2017 when this happened? Do you think he was trying to make an example of her at that point?
He said it. He said he was. I mean, I thought that was against the law to use a case to make an example, but he said it. That, they and Comey too, they were going to, nail her to the wall. They were going to make an example of her. And, the craziest thing about all of this too, the system failing her, the cruelty along the way. But I don't know if you're familiar with the EAC, which is the Election Assistance Commission. They govern elections. Immediately after Reality's alert, they put out guidance to the states. There's a tweet, they tweeted, alert, hashtag Reality Winner, the first time that hashtag was ever used. And they didn't know what was happening. So they used her alert. If that doesn't prove that she was, a conscience-driven whistleblower, I don't know what would. I mean, she provided a public service at her, to her own demise. She risked everything because she knew this information was out there, but no one was telling us. No one was telling us what was going on. And Reality Winner basically stepped up and did what needed to be done. And this is how she has been treated, because she is not powerful.
And here's the thing, Wendy, we've heard of people who have leaked documents, but in leaking so many documents, in many ways, they do compromise in some ways American security and American intelligence. Let's be clear. This is not that case. This is a document that simply ties a foreign government in attacking our country. And it was that single kind of document, that one overall summary that was mailed, and not this abundance of other documents that could somehow compromise American intelligence. Quite the contrary, the information that was provided helped America, helped prepare states to be safe and secure. And but for Reality Winner leaking that, had she not, we may not have actually been prepared this time around. And as the cybersecurity expert who was fired said, this was in 2020 one of the safest and most secure elections. And so that's ultimately what she did. That to me, at its core, is what makes this different than a Snowden or some other cases. I think, in fact, when she was, at least this was reported, when she was interrogated, I think one of the things that Reality said is, what's going on? This is not a Snowden situation.
I'm no Snowden. And I mean, the Senate Intelligence Committee and Mueller used her information in both of their reports. I mean, this whole case, this political persecution, it just stinks. And it's time to bring Reality Winner home. She has suffered so much. She has been sexually assaulted in prison. She filed a PREA report, which is a confidential report, back, I believe, last March. Nothing was ever done about it. Nothing until Billy spoke out and the media picked it up. And then now, it's being discussed. I mean, Reality's faced, like you said, all along the way. I mean, what horrible things could be done to Reality Winner? They've been done in jail, and now they're happening in prison. If she's doing well, they make sure and move her to another unit where she won't do so well. This is how she's been treated all along the way. And I don't understand why no one in government is helping her at this point. We have a new administration now. I mean, Reality Winner needs to come home.
I want to talk about that, this tale of two administrations. I understand there were some efforts made at the end of the Trump administration. I think he had tweeted something about Reality, comparing her to Clinton and saying what Clinton did was much worse. So potentially that provided an opening. Maybe there was an opportunity for clemency or a pardon. How did that go? Did anything come of that at all, Billy?
No, nothing at all. He did tweet about Reality, and he actually called her small potatoes, because he was comparing her to Clinton, and he was saying, to Jeff Sessions that her sentence was so unfair, which it was. I mean, the 63-month sentence plus the 3 years supervised release once she's out, that is the longest sentence ever for anyone who has been charged under this this act. And they actually gave out awards to all of the prosecution team that was involved in Reality Winner's case, had a banquet and everything.
They were a big dinner.
They were proud of this. And so, you know, Trump did tweet that this was unfair, and he did tweet that she was small potatoes. And so Reality filed a petition for clemency last year in February, you know, asking for her sentence to be commuted. You know, she's not even asking for a full pardon at this point. She's asking, commute my sentence. She has done enough time. You know, she's already been in prison now, incarcerated for 3.8 years. And, you know, she's a model citizen. She's no threat to society. The judge at her sentencing hearing even stated that it was highly unlikely that Reality would ever see the inside of a courtroom as a defendant again. What does that tell you? Why is she still in prison? And so, yes, we tried everything that we could to get the attention of Trump to commute her sentence, you know, and every round of pardons and commutations that were released under him, it was a slap in the face. And I know definitely, you know, that it was intentional that my daughter was not given, you know, a pardon, or her sentence was not commuted under him. I know that he, you know, saw this as an attack on him because she released the truth that he was trying to hide from the American people. And I know that he held a grudge against her for that, because once she released this document, he could no longer say that it didn't happen. And this document, as Wendy said, was used by the Senate Intelligence Committee when they did their investigation. This document was used by Mueller. This document then told the 21 states, at first it was just 21, that they were under attack. And, you know, all 21 states said, why weren't we told? Why was this kept hidden from us? You know, so yes, you know, so her petition for clemency is still there. And so now we turn our attention to this new administration, and we just hope that we can make enough noise, that we can get enough attention, have her name heard, you know, so that we get the attention of President Biden, and that he acts on this petition, and that he releases her. She has served enough time. It's time for her to come home. She has already suffered so many atrocities, so many, you know, nightmares. You know, this last winter storm, she, you know, had to endure having, you know, living in a cold prison without water. She has 300 women in her unit with 16 toilets and no water. Okay, imagine what that was like. You know, my daughter said that they actually had to clean out the toilets themselves with their hands when they brought up water so that they could make the toilets usable. You know, this is cruel and unusual punishment at this time for somebody who is no threat whatsoever to anyone.
If you look at who Trump did in fact pardon, it was the people who aided and abetted Russia and their efforts to attack the country. Those were the people who get off free. Meanwhile, the people who were here, like your daughter, who protected the country, are having to scrub toilet bowls in some indescript prison during a blizzard in Texas, while the Republican senator there is off to Cancun, while we're having this interview today. What comes next now? Are there any? I understand there's still the petition for clemency pending, but are there any other hearings with new DOJ in? Is there any potential efforts that could happen from now until November 23rd for a compassionate release?
From what I understand is that the compassionate release, once it's denied by the Court of Appeals, it's pretty much dead. that she has no chance of a compassionate release. Her only chance right now is to have her sentence commuted, to be granted clemency, or if the president wanted to pardon her and to release her. And so, because she accepted the plea deal and she pled guilty, she doesn't have an appeal process within the Department of Justice. So pretty much right now, it lays with the President of the United States. And so that's why we've been just asking people to call him, write him, tweet, do whatever you can to get the attention, and so that he can, get to know who Reality Winner is, what she's about, what's happened to her, and to right this wrong.
Billy, if you were sitting across from President Biden right now, or if somebody from the Biden administration was watching this interview, listening to this interview, what would you want them to hear? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that she has already been punished for her crime. She has expressed deep remorse for betraying the trust of her country. My daughter has only ever served her country and every community. She is such a good, caring, compassionate person. All she wants to do is be with her family and to continue to serve her community. So I would just beg them to please look at her record, look at her actions. All of that speaks so much louder than this narrative that the prosecution made up about her. And, to please just give her a chance to come home to start healing. A lot of damage has been done to my daughter, and she needs to start the healing process.
Brittany, what would you say?
I would say bring reality home, because just like my mom said, she suffered enough. My sister doesn't belong there. She never belonged there, but we can't undo the past. And 3.8 years is enough for anyone. I mean, again, the people who believe that, reality deserved to be punished, well, she has. She doesn't deserve to be punished anymore. She deserves to come home to her family, again, to begin the healing process, like my mom said, and to meet her new niece, who she hasn't had the opportunity to meet yet. How much more of my daughter's life is my little sister going to miss? And hopefully the answer to that is no more, because what we're asking of President Biden and of people in his administration is to free my sister and bring Reality Winner home.
Wendy, how can those listening or watching this support the Free Reality Winner movement?
Any way that you can, any way that you will. Right now we have an action going where we're asking people on March 3rd to please send a postcard or letter to President Biden asking for her release. We are always on Twitter, we're on Facebook. We're looking for people on different social media platforms to express themselves that Reality Winner has taken responsibility for her actions. She has suffered beyond measure, and it's time to bring her home. So in any way that they possibly can, reach out to this administration. Be creative. We just need numbers. I mean, Billy and I started out, we were lucky to get a retweet. I mean, neither one of us had Twitter accounts, and it's grown. We've grown. We have people. We're trying to educate people about reality, and what you're doing here today. We just are so grateful. And today, people are hearing us ask to please reach out to this administration. And that Reality Winner she's just a beautiful person. No one has gotten to know her. No one has gotten to know who she is, because she's been silenced and imprisoned from the moment she was interrogated. She's never been allowed to speak. She's never been allowed to show herself.
Wendy, where can people find you or Billy or the movement on social media, on Twitter, any websites you'd like to plug?
Well, we have our website, standwithreality.org, and you can go there and find lots of information about Reality Winner. And on Twitter, Would you like me to give out our handles or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I'm at Wendy Meer, MEER 11 on Twitter. And Brittany's Winner Brittany, right? At Winner Brittany.
That's right.
And Billy at BJ Winner Davis.
Yes. Yes.
So at Wendy Meer 11, at Winner Brittany, at BJ Winner Davis, and our website is standwithreality.org. We have a petition going as well. We're hoping to have more signatures. Right now, we're closing in on 15,000 signatures, but it's on Twitter. It's on the website, standwithreality.org. We would like to have many, many, many more signatures on that petition that we can send to the White House to show them that the American people are calling for Reality's release.
Billy Winner Davis, mom to Reality Winner. I'll give you the last word.
Oh, well, again, I thank you for having us on. I appreciate you giving us this platform, because I know that a lot of people are, going to listen to this and know a little bit more about Reality Winner. And I thank everybody who has been with us on this journey and who has been so supportive. I've never felt alone in this. It still has been it's been the most difficult thing I've ever gone through in my entire life, something that I never expected ever to experience. And I cannot wait for the time when Reality can actually be home, be with us. And I look for that time.
Billy Winner Davis, Brittany Winner, Wendy Collins, thank you for joining this special edition of the MeidasTouch podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.